the idea of happiness is sometimes confusing in the Christian world, okay? It just is. I don't even understand why it's so complex, but it can be very, very confusing. You all know what I'm talking about? People will say, I just want to be happy, and somehow they associate happiness with worldliness and the worldly things. And so, I don't want to confuse it. When I say simple habits for a happy Christian, what I mean is a joyous Christian. Okay, I'm going to use the word happy and joy. I'm going to use them synonymously. Like some people will be like, whoa, those are two different words. I get that. Generally, the world looks at happiness and joy the same. We know that it's joy. We know what joy is. Happiness operates in the secular realm and ultimately is profane. It's empty, it's worthless. Joy operates in the spiritual realm and is permanent. Christians look for the joy. David said, Lord, restore to me the joy of my salvation. There is a permanence there. A permanence. It's not profane. It's not empty and worthless. It's real. It has substance. As a matter of fact, in John 15:11, John writes this, these things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy, listen to this, might be full. So John is writing an account of Jesus, and this is what Jesus said. John wrote it. Jesus said it. He says, my goal is that my joy might be in you, that you might have my joy. God's saying this, that you might have God's joy, and that joy within your life might be full. That means that you be happy, and that you be really happy to the brim. That's how God wants you to live. He wants you to have a happy life. I get it. This is not some prosperity gospel. You are going to have trials, and you are going to have struggles, and you are going to have fights in your life that seem like they are going to wreck you. But God wants you to have permanent joy in your life. Joy throughout the circumstances. That's what God wants. Many times in the New Testament, the idea of joy is actually involved with this idea of being full. Full joy, happy to the limit. Now, understand this, that happiness or joy, it doesn't come just because you have things. It doesn't come just because you have things. People think that I'm so happy and I'm so joyous and I've got all this stuff. Well, how is it that so many people have so much stuff and don't have any joy? And then you find some people who have nothing at all and are so happy, they have so much joy. It's because their joy, their happiness is not revolving around the things that they have. It's revolving around a relationship. Now listen, Solomon of all people spoke with a great perspective on this matter. He was not only the wisest man in all the world, but he was the richest man in all the world. He had more money than anybody. I mean, this guy was rich. Everything. I want to read you what he says about his riches. I gather me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I got me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem, rich beyond his wildest dreams. Also my wisdom remained with me. Not only was he the wisest man in all the world, but when he accumulated wealth, he didn't lose his wisdom. That's why he's able to write on this matter. Listen to what he says. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. Everything he saw, he said, I will have that. He says, I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. And this was my portion of all my labor. And listen to what he says. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought. He stands back and he says, man, I didn't keep anything from me. Everything I desired, I got. Now he's going to stand back and look with perspective. And he says, he looks on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. There was nothing. Everything that he wanted, he got. He was that rich. Listen to what he says in verse 17. Therefore I hated life. I don't know how many of you have so much and have so little, but this is what Solomon was experiencing. He had everything. And these are his words, friends. And I hated life, because the work that it was wrought under the sun is grievous unto me. For all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Now, I don't know about you how much stuff it takes to accumulate to make you think you're happy. But I'll tell you what, the more stuff I accumulate, the more I realize it's a burden. You gotta buy it, and then you gotta maintain this stuff, and you gotta store it somewhere. And then when it's broken, you're all frustrated because the stuff you bought doesn't work anymore. You got mounds and mounds of stuff. And Solomon, he wasn't speaking as some little peasant boy who didn't have anything. And he says, well, I looked at everything I didn't have, and I realized that I didn't have anything. And it was okay. This is a guy who was rich. This is like the Bill Gates times 5. And he says, you know what? I hated my life. We talk about happiness. Happiness comes not because of what you have. He says this is a great conclusion, but he sums it up in chapter 5 when he says this: he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. He says, if you want money, money isn't going to fill the hole. If you want increase, the more you have isn't going to fix it. There's something else in your life that needs change. And we need to figure out what that is. One more paycheck isn't going to just make it all better. One more house, one more kid, one more report of I'm healthy. Something else more significant here. And guys, this isn't somebody that is speaking without authority. This is somebody who is speaking with authority. This would be like Bill Gates. If Bill Gates came up to you and he says, I'm going to give away half of my wealth because it doesn't mean anything to me. I got so much money. What am I going to do with it all? It doesn't make me happy. You know what's interesting? Is I think what honestly makes some of the wealthiest people happy is when they share their wealth with other people. They give it away. They say, I don't need this. What, am I going to die with a bunch of money in my suitcase? Honestly. He has a great perspective on this matter. True happiness doesn't come from possessions and wealth. It comes from purpose and wisdom. It comes from purpose and wisdom. I know a lot of wealthy people that say, I'm just looking for a purpose. I found the money and it's not there. Because it's not about the money. It's about something else. And Paul says this to Timothy. Listen to this. But godliness with contentment is great gain. Godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. Job says something similar to that. He was born naked. He's going to die naked. He ain't going to have any money. All the stuff that was taken from him doesn't matter one bit. So what is it then? If God wants us to have joy, but joy doesn't come from abundance, then what is it? It's godliness.